I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and it's part 2 of the Sony Xperia Z Ultra full video review. Does this thing have the chops to compete, and can you carry this big thing in your pocket? We'll find out in part 2. It's part 2 of the Sony Xperia Z Ultra full video review right here on PhoneDog.com and on the YouTube channel. Now, if you didn't watch part 1, be sure to go back and take a look because we talk about the overall UI. When you really look at it, this thing is like an Xperia Z, as you would expect, just turbocharged with a faster processor and a bigger display. At least that's the take that I get from this device after working with it for a couple of days. The user interface is very similar, but this is going to appeal to a different group of people. One, it's going to appeal to the people that can't get it in the US like you can on T-Mobile with the Xperia Z. It's going to appeal to those people that enjoy unlocked devices, but perhaps more importantly, it's a big device and it's going to appeal to those people that like having a tablet in their pocket and they're not just excited to see you. Couldn't resist making that joke. Sure enough, this thing is a big device all around. You can see the iPhone 5 right here in comparison to it. You can see the Moto X in comparison to it. It's big all around with a 6.44-inch 1080p HD display with 344 pixels per inch. Now, recapping really quickly on the specs here, go back and watch part 1 first of all, but just doing a quick recap. 2.2 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 800 CPU here. You got an 8-megapixel camera on the back, and you've got a design language that looks very similar all around to the Xperia Z line, as you would expect with this being an Xperia Z device, or Xperia Z device, depending on which country you're in and how you pronounce the letter Z. You've got this 3050 milliamp hour battery as well, so a reasonably large battery, but this is all packed in a really thin form factor as well, which I covered in part 1. Very thin device. That's one thing that keeps jumping out at me as I work with this device. Really thin, definitely a big phone, but also really thin all around. So we'll jump right into quadrant standard and take a look, and then we'll go to the camera as well because it does bring over some of the features from the Xperia Z's camera. But the camera on this is a little bit worse than the, and I shouldn't say worse, I use that term loosely. Go ahead and click on that and get in here to go to quadrant standard. And let's go boom, not worse. I don't know why the phone is totally freezing up. Let's see here, live on camera too. Huh. Let's try going back. This thing is borked. Sometimes devices just need a little bit of love, and by love I mean a hard reset. Power it off and back, or not hard reset, soft reset, power it off and back on. So quadrant standard right here, we'll load this up and run the benchmark just to see how that Snapdragon 800 CPU performs in comparison to the competition. Now the LG G2 just came out, and comparatively speaking, it's packing an 800 as well. By 800 I mean Snapdragon 800 CPU. It's the first device that they're touting to be, it's kind of a global Snapdragon 800 device, coming to the US, coming to various markets as well. If it doesn't come in the US, apparently they don't consider it to be an international device, so keep that in mind. But 800 coming out, was out first on the Xperia Z Ultra, and let's see how it performs. I will say battery life has been pretty decent on this device. The battery's nice and large at 3050 milliamp hours. That said, it's non-removable for one, and two, this is a big unit. This thing's powering a big 1080p HD display, so you may run into issues if you're a hard user. That may be a challenge for you. Also, I should point out this does not have LTE, so you're not getting a full battery rundown test here in comparison to what we see on US carriers. AT&T, for example, with the Moto X, and either LTE devices or Verizon, Sprint, or T-Mobile. 18,324 on quadrant standard, incredibly fast, faster than anything I've ever seen in quadrant standard, really zippy all around, and you've got a nice device to toy around with here. You can add home screens as well, up to 7 home screens on this device, and shift your home screen around if you want to. I can make it the one right there in the middle. Shift that around, and we'll talk really quickly about personalization options here as well. I can go into settings, and you'll see display, for example. And I can come in here, obviously, and do the usual stuff, change font size and more, but I can really personalize this device and make it my own through personalization of changing the theme. And this is the typical Sony stuff here with the color theme changes. For example, green is my favorite color, so I'll change it to emerald, and you'll see that the color scheme here between the fonts, some of the icons, they all kind of change to green, and you'll notice the background is now green as well. It reminds me of something from like Poison Ivy from Batman or something. That's the first thought that comes to mind, but maybe that's just me. Wallpapers, themes, you can also access all of these by pressing and holding on the home screen and activating your widgets down here, and you can swipe through. I really like the functionality of this, how I can easily swipe through all of my widgets. And for example, I can say, you know what, let's go look at, the tools area. And this tools opens up a separate folder of widgets where I can go through and say, hey, I want Bluetooth here on the home screen, or one of the home screens. I can go back and say, Google Play, probably good to have. Keep swiping through and just add stuff as I see it. So overall, the implementation of this is very nice, and you see that with wallpapers as well. I did not mean to back out, forgive me, but I can go through here and say album if I want to, and I can select an image. And then I have a couple of other options that don't show up in the album. I can go down here, for example. I always find that the image quality never comes out as amazing when I use these versus the stock wallpaper images, but we'll give it a try. Crop, and we'll see how that looks as well. So you've got a decent level of personalization here. Sony is getting better there between the wallpapers and the themes and the widgets and all of that stuff, things that people like to do. So obviously, actually that one came out pretty well. Not bad at all. So I bet you were expecting me to say by any stretch of the imagination. Well, no, not this time, friends. So I'll go back here, and even this thing is hard for me to hold with two hands, as you can clearly tell by the video. Lock screen as well. I can come in here and select the wallpapers, and I can change my quick settings also right through here and move these up and down. So let's say, I use airplane mode on a pretty regular basis, so I can shift this quick setting up to the top, and this is something in response to both Samsung and LG. Say airplane mode, I use that probably more than even sound. I'll go out and I'll come back, and it should be right up there in the top. I'm not quite sure why it's not displaying right there in the top. Let's make sure it's saved, and maybe I didn't save it. Let's go into personalization and quick settings, and then forgive me. There we go. Boom. Airplane mode now on, and you can see it right there, and obviously it takes up a little bit more space. But I can move those around and change those as I see fit and activate them, and they'll appear right there in the top area. Let's do a quick web browsing test as well so you can see what that looks like on the 6.44-inch display. Really nice here, as you'd expect. This thing is going to be great if you watch a lot of YouTube videos, you browse the web a lot, you do anything that requires some sort of content creation, be it taking notes or browsing the web or typing up documents. I mean, you've got a nice big space here for the keyboard. It's going to be easy to type on or write on if you prefer to use the swipe option. Hey there, Delilah lyrics. No, thank you. And you can see phonedog.com right here with our site pulled up with our nice big beautiful images. And I can go to another site, let's say CNN actually. Let's go to CNN. CNN.com, the most trusted name in news. That's the best Earl Jones impression I've got. Boom. And then up and down, you can see this is the mobile version, but still really nice from a content creation standpoint. That Snapdragon 800 CPU, obviously, as evident by the speed test, running very fast on this device. I'm pretty pleased with that. And then you've got Google Now access just by swiping up right there, which I have not activated it on this device. Camera here in the back, and you've got some of the Sony options, as you can see right here. I've got Superior Auto turned on. Then I have my video camera, burst mode, picture effect, and I'll bring this up a little closer so you can take a look here. I'll bring that back. Sweep panorama, scene selection, front camera, and front video all right there in the top. So I can do, for example, let's do a burst mode. And I'm going to take burst shots of the Moto X, and I'm going to lay it right down here. And we'll do as many as possible. Got 14, 15, 16, 18, 20, 30, 40, 3 burst shots. And I can go back to my album here and select the ones I want to get rid of, the ones I want to keep, and the ones I want to delete. And let's say I like that image right there. I can hang on to that one pretty easily. And you notice my on-screen buttons go away when I click in the camera, and I've got my menu or my map here where I can geotag these and find out where I took them. I can go back here and say, you know what, let's go ahead and delete some of these. Let's delete, select. Let's just randomly go through and say some of these just do not work out. Boom. Delete items, and those are all deleted. So all in all, this is a really nice device all around. It's going to be great, again, for media consumption, for browsing the web, for doing things like that. That said, it's huge, it's hard to hold in the hand, and it's even worse to put in the pocket and try to sit down. So if you're looking for a big device, maybe as a secondary unit for when you're at home, pop the SIM card in and use it as a content creation tool, it may be a great unit for you. But overall, this is something I would recommend only to people that really want a super large display with camera functionalities without a flash, because this thing does not have a flash. Keep that in mind. It does have a front-facing camera and a rear-facing camera, but sadly, no flash. I am impressed with the settings though. You got your resolution here. I can kick that up to 7 megapixels right there. And then geotagging, smile shutter, quick launch, touch capture, and all the goodies you would expect that we saw on the Sony Xperia Z. Keep it locked on phonedog.com for continuing coverage of the Sony Xperia Z Ultra. I'm on Twitter at phonedog_Aaron, Facebook, facebook.com/HiAaronBaker, Google+, G+.to/phonedog. Let me know what you think of this device and what you want to see it up against in a dogfight. Thanks so much for watching. As always, I'll see you next time.